From a word being misspelled on the Liberty Bell to English not being the official language, here are 20 things that you probably didn't know about the United States. It's a sticky subject, but it seems the entire country is nuts about peanut butter. 94% of all households in the US have at least one jar. It takes about 540 peanuts to make a 12-ounce jar, and the average peanut farm is in a spread of 200 acres. 2 US presidents have been peanut farmers, and a study revealed that the average American eats around 3,000 peanut butter sandwiches in their lifetime. Also, speaking of sandwiches, burritos are not considered a sandwich in America, and there's a law to prove it. In 2006, the Supreme Court Judge Jeffrey Locke had ruled that a burrito is not a sandwich. The U.S. Department of Agriculture backed that law up and further defined the sandwich as a meat or poultry filling between 2 slices of bread, bun, or biscuit. So much for egg sandwiches. The United States stretches 3.7 million miles from sea to shining sea. If you're in marathons, you can run from one end to the other, and that is exactly what Pete Kostelnick did when he set a Guinness World Record in 2016 when he had ran from San Francisco, California, all the way to New York City, New York. It took 42 days, 6 hours, and 30 minutes, but he did it, and you can too. Or at least you can fast-track the journey and take an airplane instead if you want. The airplane was actually invented in the US. In 1903, the Wright brothers had flew the very first controlled aircraft to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. After 4 years of pouring their time and money into the makeshift Mastercraft, it went about 120 feet before finally crash landing. Today, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner can fly an astonishing 10,000 miles on just a single tank of fuel. And yes, the Dreamliner was invented in America too. America is the birthplace of some other amazing inventions. Many were the brainstorm of a man called Thomas Edison, a businessman from Milan, Ohio. The world was shocked and enlightened when he invented electricity, and later, he dramatically improved a previous invention, the telephone. The record player, light bulb, and even America's first voting machine were all attributed to this genius. He had over 1,000 patents, which in and of itself is a record. Here's a cheesy fact: 94% of Americans dig pizza. They eat an average of 100 acres of pizza every day, which slices add up to about 350 servings per second. Almost half of pizza lovers in the US order theirs with pepperoni, and the least loved ingredient are those little minnows, anchovies. Customers spend approximately $11 billion on pizza every year, which is a lot of dough. Over 60,000 pizzerias are located across the land. At one time, pizza was reserved for the upper crust, like movie stars and political figures, but now practically everyone gets a slice of the pizza pie. Speaking of eating a lot of pizzas, that's probably why the United States is also the fattest country in the world, according to a Men's Journal study. 66% of all U.S. citizens are overweight, and a whopping 33% are morbidly obese, which is really bad news when it comes to heart disease, diabetes, and other medical issues. McAllen, Texas weighs in as the fattest city in the nation. A heavy title the city has scaled 3 years in a row. Close to half the population is oversized, and the town sits on the Mexican border and is famous for making, and obviously eating, tortillas. Broccoli has been crowned the nation's most popular veggie. You can steam it, fry it, boil it, or even just eat it raw. One citizen known as Tom Broccoli Landers had spouted a world record for eating 100 pounds in 92 seconds. Out of 500 Americans polled, every single one of them chose broccoli as their favorite, but apparently former President George H.W. Bush wasn't one of them. He hated the green stuff so much, he banned it from the White House and even from Air Force One while he was in office. The United States has the largest economy in the world, making up a quarter of the global economy. The nation took the lead in 1871 and hasn't cashed out since. High consumer spending, decent average incomes, and even moderate unemployment rates all add up to a thriving economy. But bills are adding up too. The average American is $54,000 in debt, and almost half is considered low income and are living in the poverty limit, with 46 million on food stamps. Mortgage loans, credit cards, auto loans, and student loans all account for much of that money mayhem. The country also has its fair share of millionaires too, though, at 18.6 million of them. Bill Gates is one of the richest, who is at a net worth of $132.5 billion. But even if he gave up his fortune to the country, it would only cover 15 days of the national deficit. Regardless of its debt, though, the United States is still the richest in history, with national landmarks to prove it. The most recognizable monument in the world is the Statue of Liberty, a gift which was given to the states by France on July 4, 1884. Lady Liberty contains 354 steps and wears a size 879 shoe. There are 25 windows in her crown, and each of its 7 rays is 9 feet tall and weighs 150 pounds. Many people think that the statue is located in New York City, but it's technically in New Jersey. The Liberty Bell is yet another American icon. It was rung in the public square for reading of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and it was last rung on George Washington's birthday in 1846. It is definitely a work of art, but don't look too closely at it, as you might find that it's not all it's cracked up to be. Along with a giant crack in it, you'll also see the word Pennsylvania could have used a spell check. All the same, the words of the Proclamation of Liberty inscribed on it still rings true. Now, if you think that English is the official language of the US, you don't know what you're talking about. While it is the most widely spoken, the nation doesn't actually have an official language, but it's not because people haven't tried. A number of amendments to the Constitution have been introduced to make English the #1 language, but all attempts have fallen on deaf ears. Holidays are also a big deal in the States, and Christmas rings in as the favorite, so much so that 182 places have the word Christmas in their names, like Christmas Valley, Oregon, and Christmas Island in Florida. There's even a year-round family-owned amusement park in Santa Claus, Indiana called Holiday World, and it features all things Christmas. Scrooge would be happy to know the festive park is closed, though, on Christmas Day. Americans not only like to celebrate holidays, but they also celebrate darn near everything. Every year, residents drink 6.3 billion gallons of beer, 900 million gallons of wine, and 570 million gallons of spirits. The sale and consumption of alcohol hasn't always been legal in the US, though, because during the Prohibition era from 1920 to 1933, it was illegal, that is, unless you had a prescription for it. Just what the doctor ordered. Some people think that the US has gone to the dogs, and they're right. Pet owners spend around $99 billion a year on their four-legged friends, and that includes everything from food to toys and fur fashions. Another $6 billion is roughly spent on services like boarding, grooming, pet sitting, and much more. True fact, pet parents will attend their fur babies' dental needs before their own. Cows are what moves Montanians. They outnumber citizens there 3-1. Needless to say, agriculture is the top industry there, with livestock hoofing 2/3 of it. More than 2.5 million cattle call Montana home, while only about 1 million humans call the state home. Americans are wild about McDonald's. 1 in 8 have been employed at one during some point in their lives. The popular fast food chain is notorious for hiring just about anybody and teaching them how to flip a McBurger. McDonald's hires over millions of workers per year in the US alone. The United States may be worth a fortune now, but it hasn't always been that way, or part of it at least. Alaska was purchased from Russia in 1867 for a mere 2 pennies per acre, which wasn't a bad way for the nation to put their 2 cents in. Considering the natural resources found in Alaska, like oil, America has more than made its money back 100-fold. Pensacola, Florida is the oldest city in the US. The beachside city was settled in 1559 and is now soaring with historical treasures, like 100 aircraft that were built in the 1920s. There's even a pub there that is worth a pretty penny too. McGuire's Irish Pub has over $500,000 worth of $1 bills just hanging throughout the walls.